Sign up with my Weibo link, get 10 free shares. Link will be in the description below. So, growing my stock portfolio to $1 million. So, the two positions that I'm currently in is a 2 times Bitcoin ETF and a 2 times Netflix ETF. So, looking first at, let's start off with Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin today, it's up 2.42%. On the daily chart, we're doing pretty good, holding ourselves above the 9-day moving average. On the weekly chart, we already made it above the 50-day moving average. The reason I say that is because the high was 81,000 and the 50-day moving average reads 80,000. So technically we have made it over the 50-day moving average, but the thing is that we need to regain control being above the 50-day moving average. I feel like that's the next step that needs to happen in order for Bitcoin to break out of this range that it's been under the 50-day moving average for a pretty good moment. It's been under the 50-day moving average for a while. So I feel like once we make that move, we will finally start seeing, obviously Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies start moving up. But on the 30-minute time chart, it looks like it's heading back. Yeah, it's heading back to Earth. It's heading back to the 9-day moving average. It looks like it's been using the 20-day moving average as support as of recently. On the 30-minute time chart, I used it here. I used it here, this area. And so I feel like if we do see Bitcoin start, approaching back, pulling back a little bit, I feel like it's going to pull back to the 20-day moving average. Now on the 4-hour time chart, it's a little interesting. I've mentioned before that it's technically been using the 20-day moving average as support. It used it here, used it here, used it here, and then we lost control here, but we regained control here on the August 26th at the 16 candle on the 4-hour time chart. So basically, I feel like if we do see, another little small pullback for Bitcoin, I expect for Bitcoin to pull back to the very least to the 20-day moving average. We've been pretty good using we've been doing pretty good using the 20-day moving average as support. So I feel like we should be good for now. So the next thing I do want to talk about is Netflix. So Netflix today didn't really do much, I would say. The reason I say that is because let's see, where is Netflix? Today Netflix was actually down 1.99%. On the daily chart, we're still pretty much above the 9-day moving average. We've basically been riding the 9-day moving average as support. Technically, let's see, the 9-day moving average reads 79.70 and Netflix finished at 79.84. So technically we finished over the 9-day moving average today. That was a huge sign of relief for me personally, because I was like, man, I feel like if we do, close the market and we finish below the 9-day moving average, I feel like we're gonna start seeing that momentum from what we've been seeing from Netflix, going up, all of a sudden shift to being going down. So that was a really huge sign of relief. On the weekly chart, it looks like we are having a little bit of trouble being above the 20-day moving average, sort of like Bitcoin. I feel like once we break out the 20-day moving average, we should be good to go, and we can see further momentum from Netflix. Now, I did mention previously that if Netflix were to pull back, I would expect for Netflix to use the 50-day moving average as support. Currently, we're below the 50-day moving average, but if in the pre-market in the morning we can try to regain control of being above the 50-day moving average, then we should see a little, slightly healthy bounce to the upside, but we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. It's kind of, not looking so good because now the 9-day moving average just crossed below the 20. So, and if the 9 crosses below the 50, I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll have to see what happens for Netflix. So currently, the next thing I want to talk about is an update on the $1,000 paper trading challenge, and basically the an update on the $1,000 paper trading challenge is basically SpaceX. The September 18th SpaceX call options that expire this year are down 41.67%, and basically the goal is to basically what I want to do. I don't make trading option videos anymore. The reason I don't do that anymore is because I don't really have time to do that anymore, or I really don't find, I guess I don't do it. I just don't do it. I feel like I've been leaning more into, okay, invest for the long term, and instead of, taking little small losses here and there, I rather, just, invest it instead of, be like, man, I lost on, today. And then tomorrow I made a lot of money. And then the next day I lost money. And then the next day I made money. But like, I don't want to do that because I feel like it's not for me personally anymore. I feel like it was helpful in the beginning, but not so much anymore. I feel like I'm leaning more towards being a long-term investor now. So basically what the goal is of this strategy, or I guess this experiment is basically, I want to experiment, I want to do options, but I want options that expire in the long run, in the long term. I don't want options that expire in like a week, 2 weeks, what I used to do. I want to do options that expire, in the long term. So basically, let's look at SpaceX, right? So let's see. On the daily chart, it's looking pretty good. We actually finished above the 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average reads 138. So that is pretty good. And basically on the 4-hour time chart, I did mention a little while back that we were stuck below on the 24th. The 9-day moving average was below the 20. And I mentioned basically if the next day the 9-day moving average could cross over the 20, we could actually start seeing momentum to the upside for SpaceX. And that's basically what has happened. Basically, once the 9-day moving average crossed the next day, the 25th, that's when we started seeing SpaceX start going up. So we'll have to see what happens, for SpaceX this week. We'll have to see what happens for Netflix this week, and let's see what happens for Bitcoin as well. So I'll keep you updated on the $1,000 paper trading challenge. That is pretty much it. Peace.